How's it going? So, we're gonna get started on this Whipple car again finally. I had to wait on some parts and then I had to wait on parts again because I didn't get one of the pieces that I needed. Finally, we're ready to keep on going. Where all my problems resided was with this tensioner. So you can see I've got these pulleys on, both of these, the bracket, the tensioner is down here. It is the spring-loaded tensioner. I had this bolt, but I did not have the bolt, the shim, and the washer for the pulley, the idler pulley, or the idler on the tensioner. So now that all that stuff's here, I took just a couple of minutes and I was trying to get to the next steps here. We're working on the blower. I've got the fuel rails installed. I've got the injectors in, this crossover tube on, and this side's done as well. Future reference, anybody that's installing one of these, do not mess with this. It says clearly in the instructions not to alter it. That is your bypass valve. Back here is the rear of the blower. As you can see, it's got an oil fill level sight glass and an oil fill port. These blowers do not come pre-filled, so you do have to make sure that you fill it. As of right this minute, I have not filled it yet. It is not said to yet in the instructions. Here's your big opening. Gosh, this is a big old opening for airflow. It's got a lot. So then you can see your rotors here inside the casing for those of you who are unfamiliar with these. And I seen it a few minutes ago. I guess it's right there. 0.006. It's upside down. It's not 900 point. 0.006. I'm assuming that is the tolerance for how close these rotors are together. As you can see, they're pretty tight. So that may be actually where that tolerance is, right there. That's actually probably what it is. So that's a pretty tight clearance, as you can see. Very, very tight tolerance. What you get there is a very, very efficient blower. As you can see, this blower doesn't have Teflon rotors. So you don't have to worry about Teflon seals going bad or anything like that, or at least I don't believe you do. I don't know enough about the makings of these to say yes or no, but from what I understand, these blowers like this are supposed to have some kind of a Teflon seal that runs along the ridges. That's what seals them to the housing and gives you that. Usually you get a lot of whine from them blowers as well. So these blowers, the Whipples I speak of, these cars work really, really well. I've driven a couple of these and they do not whine. You usually hear the exhaust over the blower always. Maybe you can hear it from the outside, from the front, but I've never, while driving one, heard it. The next thing we've got inside here is the blower lid. This is known as the lid for these. Inside the lid, you will have your intercooler. So that's where your intercooler is to cool your charge air. And I was looking at it a few minutes ago. It's a beefy unit. So I'm going to put this on laps. I'm going to keep on going with my instructions here. I'm going to follow them and see what's next. There's plenty more things to do. I'm going to try to go ahead and get this blower on the car tonight. So this is what progress looks like. Woo! Hadn't seen it in a minute. So got the blower bolted down. So now I just got to get the lid and stuff bolted on whenever this instructs me to. Looks like next we're going to do our water pump pulley, supercharger pulley, and looks like it might be time for the belt. Go ahead and get the belt and stuff. So we're going to keep cooking along tomorrow. I'm stopping for tonight. So well, you guys ain't gonna have to stop. So I'll be back and we'll knock this out tomorrow. Well guys, I reckon today's the day I'm gonna show you the new project. So I got this car off a friend, got a good deal on it. It is a 2010 Camaro SS. So as you can see, we got a TH400. This shifter is pretty poor quality. It's a B&M. It doesn't want to shift through the gates correctly. It does shift, just not correctly. So we're gonna put something else in that. And it's not got a manual valve body. I think it's got some kind of an auto valve body. So we're gonna look at swapping that out. Other than that, everything on the car works, right down to the heated seats and all. So when I get stopped up here, I'll show you what she looks like. So the only real issue with this car right now, while I'm driving it though, I figure I'd go over, it does not have power steering right now. One of the lines broke to the power steering pump and drained all the fluid, and it doesn't have anything. It needs that line repaired and fluid added. But she's pretty rowdy. This thing does get down. It's almost difficult to drive in a sense, just from how snappy the throttle is and the tires that's on it. As soon as you touch the throttle, this thing just spins like crazy. It made 484, I think it was, to the tires through the other automatic that was in it. It's the 6L80. So we're talking about a, roughly 500 wheel horsepower LS3 in this thing. And it works well. Can't hate it for that. This is technically the first LS that I've ever owned that actually ran and drove. Well, I can't say that. It's the second. It's the second one that I've ever owned that run and drove. The first one was so long ago that I can't even hardly count it. But yeah, that happens. That's a thing. But anyways, as you can see, I mean, it runs and drives good. It's going to be a great car. This is going to be the next shop car. I figure since we got shop truck, now we need something else to get crazy with. So let's see where she ends up. I've got a plan in mind. And so here she is. It is a 2010, like I said, SS Camaro. I took the liberty and went ahead and washed it. I'm not a huge fan of these wheels. Not crazy on that color or anything. Not really crazy on the spoke design either. It kind of looks like a smaller Z28 wheel, I guess. But obviously you can tell it's missing a few pieces. He got in a little accident with it. So I got to replace like the headlights and stuff, which they still work, but they're all busted up. The car has got a 6.2 LS3. This is the original engine that came in this car. It's got roughly 90,000 miles on the whole short block, and then the heads and everything, they're all aftermarket heads. This car makes about 485 wheel-ish, somewhere in there is what they said. I think I already mentioned that once, but anyway, that's about where this thing's at. I've got the whole engine sold. I'm selling everything out of here, the MSD two-step, all of it, because I can't use any of that stuff. I will be putting a Coyote in here. That is the plan. As long as I can get it to clear the strut towers and stuff, which I think I've got enough room. I think I can make it happen. We will have the first Coyote swapped 5th gen. So looking forward to that. It's got stripes. They kind of match the seats. The seats are black and red. It's got some stuff I've got to clean up on it. Oh, the side's locked, of course. But, this side obviously is a better side. Really doesn't look that bad. The car, when I washed it, a bunch of stuff cleaned up on it. There was some, you can still see them a little bit, these runs and stuff that are on the clear coat. It comes off real easy with a clay bar, so we'll get her all cleaned up. Get some wax on it, get it looking better. I've got to find some replacement parts, so I'll get on that here soon. But as of right now, I figure I would show the whole world the new project. Pretty excited for this, pretty amped up. This thing here is going to be pretty sweet. Obviously, it's the next day from when I was putting the blower on, so I've got the day off from work today. This is a normal work day. We're going to continue on this, try to get this thing done. I'm pretty anxious. I mean, we're on page 37 of 62 now. My phone died. Charged it up for a minute. All I managed to get done in that time was I hooked up the fuel injectors. But you can't really see them very well down in there. They're all hidden now. O-ring for the lid. O-ring for the intercooler. As you can see, it's actually just tubing. It's 2 pieces of tubing. One big piece that goes around this way. And then this little piece here. I had to trim a small little piece off of that to get it to fit without bunching up. Next, I've got to install the O-ring into this, but on the lid part. And I think it's about time to put the lid on. So I'm gonna jump back into the laps and keep on trucking. Well, we got the blower on. All that stuff appears to be finished in terms of the blower section. They now want us to move on to the heat exchanger install. And first thing it says is remove these bars that only the Track Pack cars have, or I'm assuming cars with the larger Brembos. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna move on to next. I guess we're going to the heat exchanger. So I'm gonna move the camera so you guys can actually see it. Ooh, man, I'll tell you what, this thing is wearing me out. I've been on this car all day and I just feel like I haven't really got that much done. Like, I know I have. I mean, I got the lid put on it this morning, the throttle body on, all the coolant lines I think are done for the blower. We've got the coolant reservoir and this little line here. We got to put the air filter and the intake tube on, change the spark plugs, put the battery back in it, and put the car back together. That's about all I've got left. But man, it just feels like this thing's beating me. Having said that, I'm gonna call it a night. You can see it's dark. I started at 9 this morning and it's, I don't even know what time it is right now, like 8:30, 8:45. So I've been on it for, at least 10, 11 hours. And it's just very in-depth. There's so much stuff to it. I will say, I take back 100% of what I said earlier about Whipple having some of the best instructions you can look at. These are really, they're not that great. You know, they look really good in the beginning, but basically what I've come to find out is after having some parts missing out of the box that never were shipped, I had to wait on those. And then after having the instructions tell me to do the same thing 2 separate times, to do the same thing that I've already done because it's already told me to do it, and then it says to do it again later, there's just a bunch of stuff to this that I'll take my ProCharger stuff over top of this any day. The installation on that stuff's a million times easier. This is a very in-depth install. I really thought it was going to be a lot easier than it is. Not that easy. Yeah, you could do it. I wouldn't say you could even do this with simple hand tools. There's some spots where, like getting to the bolts on the back of the blower in order to torque them and tighten them and everything, you've got to have an arsenal of extensions and swivels and stuff like that. So I'm going to come back in tomorrow evening and I'm going to get this the rest of the way done, plugs changed and everything, get this thing fired up and the tune loaded into it, then fired up in that order. We'll see how this thing does tomorrow. All right, so now I've got everything done. The battery's back in, the brace is back on, everything's tight, everything's been checked. We got your coolant level filled up. It's actually a little high. I'm hoping that it'll come down. If not, I'll have to take a little bit out. That'll be fine. The coolant in the blower itself, this thing ended up holding between 5 and 6 gallons. So there's actually a whole lot that goes in this. This does have the high capacity heat exchanger and stuff like that. We've put oil in the engine already, changed the filter, the air filter, all the sensors are hooked up. We are currently getting ready to load the tune into the car and go for the first startup. All right. Yep. That's loud. That was way louder than I expected it to be. All right, well, finished buttoning the rest of this stuff up and should be ready to go. Get a washing out. Anyway, so now we took the car out, we test drove it, the car runs really good. I suspect that the next fault's gonna end up being the clutch. It seems like it's making a good amount of torque, which my ProCharger setup never did that when it was on stock clutch and stuff, so I figured that it might hold a little more than what it is. I think that's going to end up being the next upgrade, so if you're doing this, fully expect to see that in the near future. Next, I'm going to show you my little bottle I've got set up here. So what I ended up doing was I put too much coolant in the reservoir when I use the pressure tester, which pulls a vacuum on the system. When you open up the vacuum, it fills the system with coolant so that there's no air bubbles and stuff inside. So just as a quick demonstration, I've already sucked some of this out. You drop this tube in to a Gatorade bottle. It's going to have one hole in, and the tube, it just has to barely go down in there. It doesn't have to go to the bottom or nothing like that. Then you're going to have your other tube, just goes in through the lid. It's just enough you're going to put air in it. You're going to take an air nozzle with your compressor. You're going to slip it in the slit, and you're going to make sure that when you spray air this direction, air can still flow past it. And it's going to create a Venturi effect, which is then going to pull coolant or oil or whatever, brake fluid, and fill the bottle. So at that point, you can then receive or get down to your desired level in your reservoir. But just a quick tech tip, try to help somebody else out in the future because I use this all the time. All right, got the car out of the garage, just pulled out. We're going to take some precautions and use this tomahawk to look at our lambda and stuff, make sure the car's not going to go lean on us. The car didn't actually get any fuel pump upgrades, so we're still on stock pump, no booster pump. This is just what Whipple recommends. ID 1050X injectors. It's a base Whipple calibration, so it's not supposed to need any kind of tune adjustments, but we are logging this with the Whipple Tomahawk to make sure that if there are any issues, we've got them recorded and can have them addressed with Whipple with an update. So we're gonna go out here and do some driving, check over this thing, and then we'll try to get us a pull and actually record one and make sure that everything is working correctly before the customer picks it up. So, hang on. So I almost forgot to record an outro for this, but we got the car done, made a hit, car ran great, air fuels look great, doesn't need any kind of adjustments, or it doesn't appear to, from Whipple. Car drives fantastic. Customer already picked it up, came yesterday, and car ran fantastic all the way home. He texted me and was like, wow, you're right, this thing is a rocket. So thankfully, he's really happy with it. We're really happy with it. The car turned out beautifully, and so far, it's just a fantastic kit. It works. It wasn't the best to install, but it works. So my gripe with the kit in the end all is the instructions are kind of vague. There's one part that I left out there when I was real frustrated. You've put the blower back on, you put the lid back on and everything, and at no point in the instructions did it ever say to reinstall the passenger side heater tube. And you're supposed to put the heater tube back in, put the adapter on it, and put the hose on. And it says nothing about any of that. All that stuff is missing out of the instructions. I don't have them on me anymore. He took them with him. But there was one other thing I wanted to go over as well, and I can't remember what it is. But anyway, whenever you do the install, take your time, pay attention, and keep your eyes open. Also, the heavy-duty heat exchanger, that's what it was. When I put it in the first time, I had it with both outlets to the driver's side. They actually go to the passenger side. So just another small thing that's not actually shown as you're going through there, that it's going to cause you a lot of headache when you have to go back and redo things. And that's the problem that I had. So at the end of the day, fantastic kit, works great, customer's very happy, and that's all that matters. So like, follow, subscribe, come back, check everything out for the future. We've got a bunch of stuff. The turbo showed up. The new turbo. I guess I haven't showed it yet, have I? Pretty happy with this. This is a cheap turbo, but this is what's going on the F-150. And shooting for a good 500-600 horsepower in the truck. I don't know, nothing crazy. Just something to have fun with and tow a little better than what it does. I got used to that diesel life, so stuff makes it pulling stuff like it's nothing. So this truck with 7,000 pounds behind it feels about like that diesel did with 20,000 pounds behind it. Big difference, but that's where we are now. Got the got the engine out of the Camaro already, so we'll get started on that project here soon. The truck's first. We're getting the truck done first. We got a bunch of parts for it. We've got the boss, the PMAS that I got off the Whipple car right there. So I've got some parts sitting around. That truck's next, and we'll go from there. So let's see what kind of power we can make. Y'all come back and check the rest of it out, and like always, make better choices. Deuces.